What's up, everybody? This is 99 Overall, and today I want to talk about college football. I actually want to talk about the Big 12 Conference. There's been a couple teams added to that conference that make the conference pretty interesting. So, obviously, we know that Oklahoma and Texas are going to be leaving the conference to go to the SEC. That's a big hit. Those are the blue bloods in that conference. But you do get Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF entering the conference, and they're actually entering this coming year. And the schedule's released. So, I want to talk about the winners and the losers of the release schedule. Um, Overall, I think the Big 12 is a winner here because I think all four of those teams are really good, really competitive teams. I mean, a couple years ago, Cincinnati was in the college football playoff. UCF claimed the national championship. They had a really good team that year. Houston uh, has certainly fielded really good teams in the last 4 or 5 years. Not long ago they beat Tech, or they beat Oklahoma rather, um, and then BYU has a lot of talent for the type of school they are. I mean, they had Zach Wilson. They have another really high quarterback prospect coming through. So they've got a lot of talent, and they're typically a pretty good team. So you got four good teams entering the conference, and for those teams, it's an opportunity to kind of put yourself more on the mainstream stage. You kind of get the primetime games that you weren't getting in your other conference. So let's take a look at these schedule breakdowns. I want to talk about who I think are the winners and losers of this schedule release and kind of the conference realignment. Who I think are the winners, who I think are the losers. So here's the schedule release. I'm going to kind of just go through this. So first and foremost, I want to say the winners are 100% the teams that got added, and I kind of alluded to that earlier. But BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston all won because they get to be in primetime games. And Cincinnati, who was very good a couple years ago, was getting doubted, trying to get more or less they were trying to get pushed out of the college football playoff because their strength of schedule was bad. They didn't play anybody. They didn't play the primetime games. So they don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, look at this schedule. You get OU, you get BYU, you get Iowa State, Baylor, Oklahoma State, UCF, West Virginia, and Kansas certainly turned it around. And Pitt. They do have Pitt as well. I just saw that. So I think that's a win. All the teams coming in, huge win. Oklahoma State's the loser. So the reason Oklahoma State is a loser, and it's one of the only losers I actually have on here because I think this is really good for the Big 12 conference. But Oklahoma State gets one Texas team. That's all they play. They play Houston. That's it. They don't get Texas. They don't get TCU. They don't get Tech. They don't get Baylor. So Baylor, obviously TCU this year was very good, and Texas, and even Texas Tech, all very solid teams. Probably all besides TCU will be better next year. So the Cowboys get probably the weakest schedule. They don't really get the marquee. Of course, they get Oklahoma, and they get the teams that got added to the Big 12. But I think they're definitely a loser here. You got to play those. You got to play the Texas Techs, the Baylors, TCU, and Texas. If you're gonna make, if you're gonna go to that college football playoff, which I don't know if the Cowboys have that type of team. They've been on the doorstep the last, 3 or 4 years. They've been really close a couple years ago. But I don't think this schedule is going to do them any favors in reaching that goal. So let's go on to a winner. And a lot of people will say this is a loser, the Oklahoma Sooners schedule. Most people are going to say this is a loser because simple fact that you open conference play at Cincinnati. That's a very tough spot to play. Open conference play. You could start your conference play 0-1, and then you close on a short week. You go to BYU, short turnaround, Black Friday. Go to TCU, who's the reigning. Well, they're not the Big 12 champ, but they played the national championship. So you might look at that and say, that's not a very good schedule for the Sooners. But I think it is. And I think it is for the opposite reasons the Cowboys isn't good. You still get Texas, you get Oklahoma State, you get the new guys, and you get to finish strong. In your last 4 games, you get the rival and likely a very good Oklahoma State team. You get BYU, and you get TCU, who played the national championship. They may not be as good as they were last year, but you get to end very strong. And people are going to look at this. They're going to say they're going to kind of weight the fact that you played on a short week. You went to BYU, first time ever. They've never played BYU, and you turned around quickly and you play TCU. And if you win both those games, if you finish strong, if your only loss on the schedule is say Texas early in the year, Sooners are going to be right where they want to be. I would imagine. Another winner. Um, oh, how can I forget? The biggest reason the Sooners are a winner here is they don't have to play Kansas State. Kansas State has been a thorn in their side for years now, and they don't have to play Kansas State. So they get to avoid Kansas State, which is actually good for Oklahoma because they have their number. Texas, this is a very good win for Texas, this new schedule or the schedule release. You open pretty tough here in your first, what is it? 6 weeks here. You're going to play Alabama, Baylor, and Oklahoma. Okay, at Baylor, at Alabama, neutral site, Oklahoma. You're likely, very possible, have 2 losses. Okay, but let's just say you have one. I do think Texas will be pretty good. The reason this is such a good schedule is you get to finish very, very strong. BYU, Kansas State, the reigning Big 12 champion, TCU, Iowa State, Texas Tech. So a very strong finish, which I think is a very tough start for the Longhorns. I think they get to finish real strong. And the new bloods coming into the conference, the Houston, most notably, I think BYU might be the best of the bunch coming over. Kind of give some weight to that schedule down the stretch. And the only 2 games that are not at home out of that stretch are TCU and Iowa State, which out of BYU, Kansas State, and Texas Tech, I think TCU and Iowa State will be worse than all 3 of those teams. TCU is certainly going to take a step back. Iowa State's in a tough spot. They're definitely in a rebuild. I think Texas Tech will be pretty good. Kansas State, I think, will be good again. And BYU will probably be good. So this is a win for Texas because they get to finish their season on a very, very high note. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. Stay tuned for more videos. I like to give breakdown on college football, college basketball, really any kind of sport. I like to give my breakdown and deep dive into the subject matters. And I would love for you guys to interact with me. Who do you think are the winners and losers of the Big 12 schedule release? Let me know. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for more content. Thank you guys.